Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 3rd, 2025 at approximately 8 p.m. PST. Now, I've made it my life's calling to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my own life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the exact philosophies that I personally guide virtually every decision I make. Okay, and we'll finish that sentence off with bye. Now, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of people with varying degrees of success depending on their own personal efforts. So today we are going to be looking at that neat little thing called building your bank account with your own money. And bear in mind, this is the same method I personally use. Okay, but before I get into it, definitely we're going to tip our hat to Storm, because Storm is the primary moderator that sits in the background and makes sure tech continues to run, plus fill in any hidden information that I require, as well as making absolutely certain that problem children are removed before they become a problem child. Okay, now, with that in mind, we have Mike Jones. You are in with the gold. How you doing, Mike? I am so glad to see you here. Hopefully this works out well for you. Then we have Eternity Eternal. You are in with the silver. How's it going, Eternity? I figure with everything going on in this world, it's time we start looking at the reality behind how to make money work. Now, I am no millionaire. Okay, and let's understand why. I 100% didn't care about it. For me, money didn't matter. Breathing, on the other hand, might. Sure, figures. We're going to have a problem. Sorry about that, guys. And we have LA Moon in the house. LA is our primary moderator in the chat room that helps with keeping the conversation going. She also watches to make certain if any of the problem children do end up in there, she pops them out right away. So with that in mind, when we're looking at your finances, I wish that were the case, Mike. I'm actually doing not bad. It was just bad timing. Don't ask me how that always works out. But what you do is effective tonight if you haven't already done it. Take a look at what your bank account is. Okay, the trick to it is this. Now, so many people, okay, myself included, turned around and I didn't pay any attention to my finances for down the road. I really should have. Okay, so we're going to get things turned around here. What do we got? Philip Blair, you are in with the bronze. And Operation Shutdown, you are in with honorable mention. What do we got? The nice little part about money is this. Whether you are materialistic or not, don't become materialistic. Money's got to be a side effect. It cannot be a goal. Well, it can be, but I will tell you, 90% of the time it'll backfire. Okay, but when we are looking at the situation here, okay, take a look at your bank account balance, like your current balance, if you haven't done so already. Now, I only worry about one bank account to speak of. We are going to have problems today, it would seem. So my apologies, but this is what we get for live. Okay. Thanks, Storm. The nice part about it is I look at the primary bank account that I run all my money through, that I pay all my bills through. Take a look at what the minimum is, and what your current balance is. Now, what you're going to do, if you're following the path I did, okay, write down your current balance, okay, effective today. Okay, I tell you effective 2 days ago, but let's do it with today, because the past you can't do a thing about anyway. Okay, now in my case, and I'm just going to pull up an actual answer. I just did this. I literally just did this today. Okay, so if I go down to today, my account balance this morning when I checked this out was $34.70. Now, I knew full well that my rent was going to push me into the red. Okay, but that 34.70, that was here at the beginning of the month. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see, where are we? With that in mind, all you do is you go, okay, there's your balance. Now, you take a look at that and you go, okay, where am I going from here? Well, for the end of November, okay, make sure your balance is at least a penny higher than what your current balance is. Now, I realize we are not talking about a lot of money. You're like, well, if you're only making a 1 penny higher, it's not going to climb very quick. And absolutely it won't. I said a minimum of that. Now, if I look back at my bank account, and this is now, that's what my current balance is. At the beginning of the month, before I paid a couple of bills, my balance was $364.37. Now, yes, I know. Why tell you my balance? The reason why I tell you my balance is to let you know this is what the balance is. This is where I'm starting. I am no millionaire. Okay. But the proof is in the pudding. Come December 1st, I am committed to having at least $364.38 in the bank. Okay, the idea is to have a whole lot more than that. Okay, and the reason you do that is to ensure that as things shift, okay, that as you're moving along, you can keep your balance growing, but it's relying on your income, not somebody else's. Bear in mind, if you're on disability like I am, then that balance is relying on the government. But my suspicion is you already paid into it. What do we got here? Eyeballs are working well, obviously not. Operation goes, I know someone who does incantations daily, affirmations about financial prosperity. Do you believe that has merit? The answer to that, Operation, is absolutely yes. Okay, there is a proviso. Do the affirmations and the meditations on a daily basis. Absolutely. But put the effort into making it happen, because affirmations on their own won't do you much good. And I know that sounds really counterproductive. The idea of an affirmation is to help you stay focused, to help you stay focused on that bonus. Ouch. LA goes, got the shock of my young life today. Credit interest rates went up 7%. Boy, that put our plans into a tree grinder. Yeah, no doubt. That's a 7% increase. I don't know about down there, but up here, that is double the cost of living increase. Okay. And to me, that's called highway robbery. But this is why when we're looking at credit cards, we don't look at the interest rate, you look at the spending habits. Okay. Now, when we're talking about utilizing your own money, you get money coming in, pay attention to what you're doing. Okay. For me, it's simple. Get that out of my way because it is in my way. Now, I've showed you guys this before. Okay. I'm a dinosaur. So I use a tabletop calendar. Okay. And what you do to make your bank account grow, like I said, it really boils down to going, here's the minimum. Now that's the number, whatever is in your bank account on the first of the month, that is what you're beating. Okay. So you take that credit, that balance, and every time when money comes in, make sure you stay focused on it. Well, what do we got here? Yeah. Yeah. Philip goes, I only like highway robbers when they're in Zorro or Robin Hood. In all fairness, the reality is this. When you take a look at something like that, now the credit and the interest rate is absolutely stupid. But here's the thing. Because we'll touch on that too, because again, it boils down to your money. Now, if your interest rate, if the interest you're making in your bank account is lower than the credit card interest, clearly we got to look at the credit card interest. But I'm going to deal with that. As a matter of fact, let's make a point of that. Next Monday, we're going to take a look at focusing your debt repayment method. Okay, but we're looking at the bank account for the moment. Where it comes to your credit card in a case like this, I put some money on my credit card. Okay, today being the 3rd, so I've already got on my calendar. Okay, I've already written on my calendar for the 10th. I've already written that the money that I spent on the credit card today will be cleared. Now, of course, this does rely on me actually having it. So we'll see how that goes. But I know I'm operating in the red right now. When you take a look at money coming in, remember the one surefire thing: if you spend less money than you've got coming in, your bank account will rise. Now, the reality is most of you have more money coming in than you may realize, especially if you haven't been paying attention to what your money does. Okay, and this is why I'm saying you desire your bank account to climb. You're the one that's going to have to actually pay attention to it. But all the absolutely, meditation, positive affirmations, these sorts of things work like an absolute charm to help you stay focused. Philip, how you doing? Now, I have no idea what that means. What do we got? Philip, oh. Oh, okay, now I understand. Now, when we start looking at your bank account, okay, it is a very simple issue. When money comes in, make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing. Now, again, the first bills that you got to make sure are dealt with are your roof over your head, followed second by your power bill. Because I'll tell you, paying any other bill is really kind of pointless. If the power goes out, you don't get anywhere. Okay, but that active account, okay, is the one we focus on. Now, I've got 4 or 5 different bank accounts, but it's the active one that matters. The rest of them they've got their own, I've got my own rules for them. But when you look at making your bank account climb, it's a real simple issue. Money comes in, okay, whatever money it is, take 1% off the top, pop it into your pocket for mad money, pop another 1% into your savings, okay, because the savings is the thing I screwed up on when I was a kid. Okay, in all fairness, I've been screwing up on it regularly. But when we are looking at staying on top of your finances and getting ahead, it boils down to paying attention to what you're doing. Okay, but again, money must be a side effect, not a goal. Okay, one of the important things that I've always looked at, one of the primary things I always look at is, what is your goal? Now, think of it this way. I know people that have literally a couple of $1,000 more than their expenses, and they burn through it because they don't watch where it's going. Okay, as a matter of fact, I was approached by somebody just the other day that had messed up. They had a staggering bank balance. They cooked it in a matter of months because they didn't pay attention to what they were doing. But here's the thing. They also are aware of it and are now looking to put it back. Okay, the same applies to you. However you got to where you are is frankly almost irrelevant. What matters is what you do from here on out. Now, when you get money coming in, like I said, check your balance. Check what your balance was on the 1st of November. That is the number that you target to make sure you've got more money in the bank after, on the 1st of December than you do on the 1st than you did on the 1st of November. Okay. Now, I'm going to be keeping very close tabs on that myself, for me, simply because of the fact it's the only way to stay ahead of time. Now, what I'm looking at here, and where was it now? I go to here, I go right to the top. I'm going to move this so that I've got a running record of it real quick. 364.37. One of the things, and you'll notice I do this regularly. This is why I say these are the tools I personally use. Okay, and that is, I look at what my bank account is and go, okay, I'm not content with mine. The reality is, I am running so tight at this age. If I'd have done what I knew should have been done, and I told literally thousands of people to do it. I literally told people, this is what you've got to do. Would that I had paid attention. Okay, so now I'm doing what I told other people to do, and we'll see how things work. But I will tell you, if you don't put the effort in and literally get off your tail feathers and make adjustments to what you're doing, okay, all the positive prayers in the world are not going to help a lot. So, when you look at your bank, okay, ask yourself this: what is a decent target? Now, depending on who you are and what your finances are, now I can absolutely. Now, I'm no financial advisor in as much as I have not gone to any schooling to learn how the banks run their money. I have shown bankers how to make money work, but I never went to school for it. Okay, so if you're having trouble, if you're questioning how to get things turned around on your specific case, one of two options for you. Well, technically three. No, literally three. Talk to somebody you know that handles their money effectively. That would be number one. Number two, talk to your financial advisor and the financial advisor at the bank. Okay, they're paid to do this. And the theory is they know what they're doing. But I will caution you, they're interested in whether they're making money. Whether the bank is making money. That's also what they are paid to do. Now, LA goes, so many people fail to balance their bank statement. They just burn it and then end up with bounces. I visit my bank balance several times a week. Keeps that from happening. I do the same thing. I don't go to the bank several times a week, but I'm into my bank on the internet, usually a minimum of once a day, to make sure something didn't go through that I didn't know about, and to make sure my Excel sheet is balanced. So your second option is definitely go to your bank and talk to the financial advisor. The theory is they know what they're doing. Failing that, if you don't have either of those options, and I've just told you what my bank accounts look like. Okay, now I will tell you, I am not what you would consider, I am not what you would consider a financial advisor from the standpoint of I've never been trained. But if you go to the buymeacoffee.com link at the top of the page of the chat room, at buymeacoffee.com/innervoiceJ. If you go there, you can find a way. There is a link to get a hold of me directly, or you can pick up any one of the books that I've written. Okay, and I will do my best to make sure you're on the right track. But even with that, you're still going to have to be the one doing the work. Okay, now I have gone from, like, when I ended my month in the black, that's the first time in probably 6 months, maybe longer, that I've actually ended my month in the black. So what I am doing is working. Okay, and if you follow suit, I cannot prove it will work, but it's a pretty good bet. And certainly if things aren't working for you yet, then changing that habit may well be all that's required. Okay, one of the other things you have to realize is that when money comes in, okay, now I get things like this. What's that? I think that's the right one. Right down at the bottom. Yep. Now, this is and I'm not going to hold it close enough for you to read it. This is a grocery bill. Okay, but at the bottom of the grocery bill, at least at the grocery store I go to, it tells you right near the bottom, it says you saved X number of dollars. If you take that X number of dollars, take it out of your bank, put it into your savings account. And I've talked about different types of bank accounts before. Okay, put what it says you saved into your savings account. If you don't, the odds are extremely good you will simply spend it somewhere else. Okay, so we are talking about a situation where you have to take a look at it and go, where am I going with this? What is my goal? Now, I will tell you, my goal is simple. It's short term, but that is to end up after all my bills are paid. My first marker is after all my bills are paid, end up in the black. It's a pretty low mark. Okay. But my dad used to say, you can accomplish anything in life if you set your sights low enough. Okay. He also used to tell me, if you take care of your pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. What I'm talking about is how to get the pennies to add up. Okay. We're not looking at get rich quick. We are talking about handle finances correctly, handle them effectively. Now, I will tell you, the government, and I have no idea how many times I've heard this, governments and financial advisors will tell you, you've got to have a balanced budget. I'm telling you, unless you've got an absolutely static income, i.e., if you're on disability, if you're on a salary, okay, then yes, a budget will work. On the whole, it really boils down to something much more effective, and that is you pay attention to your finances and you track what you're doing with them. Because as the money comes in, put it in your bank. Okay, make sure you track what's going on with it. That way you can be on top of it and not be so badly surprised. The other thing you got to do now, like I said, I'm in overdraft. Okay, but here's the kicker. And now I don't know about your bank account. Okay, obviously. But check your bank account check your bank contract and find out whether or not, if you're already in the red, if you're already into overdraft, are they going to charge you for using the overdraft? Now, in my bank, okay, in the bank I work with, what they do is they go, okay, if you're in the black and a transaction pushes you into overdraft, you don't pay anything. However, if once you're in overdraft, you spend more money of the overdraft, I get charged a small fee. Kicker, okay? Don't go spending the money if at all possible once you're in overdraft. Again, it boils down to knowing how your money is working. Okay? Because what we're talking about is, when I say you're making your bank account grow with your money, this means working like your wage, salary, any sort of government checks coming in, any money that you're being paid back, all of it gets tracked because it's all your money. Now, I will tell you there are some really neat things you can dig a hole with. Not the least of which is people telling you, oh, get a loan to bring your money up. That only works if you do it right. Okay. Now, I am playing around with an idea, and I got to run the numbers. But I'm thinking, if I've got to check the numbers, the interest rates and what have you, I'm thinking very seriously of getting a short-term loan. Now, yes, I'm in the red, but follow me on this. Okay, let's say my bank account is only generating 4%, because I'm thinking you get the loan, sink it into it, and this is sort of thinking out loud. And for pity's sakes, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay, I've got to run numbers to make sure this is going to work. But I'm looking at potentially getting a loan, taking all of that, getting an interest-free loan. Okay, because here's why. If it's interest-free and you pay the loan off in its entirety before the last day that it's interest-free, you pay no interest. This said, let's say I buy a GIC and I'm getting 4%. If I get a loan to do that, then I'm making 4%. But make sure that that loan gets paid off in its entirety before the free term is over. At which point I make 4% on the interest, 4% interest on somebody else's money. Okay. It's just a way of working the system in your favor, as it were. You know, one of the nice where are we here? That's terrible, Philip. That really is. Philip just wrote in here. Yippee-ki-yay, get alone, little doggies. You know, that's just terrible. But again, it only works if you do it right. Now, I'm no financial advisor. I simply spot loopholes and work with them. Okay, and this is why I caution you and caution everybody so often. This is what I'm looking into, but do your own research. I am not the brightest light bulb in the pack. Okay, but I do know that I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm hoping to help you guys avoid them. When you've got money coming in, get it into the bank. Do not go below what your last month's balance was, if at all possible. And remember, even 1 penny above what it was is still a step in the right direction. Okay, so at this point, I'm looking at a lot of changes happening. That won't work. You know, this same philosophy, by the way, applies to virtually every aspect of what you're doing. There was an account of a young lad working, and he lived on a farm. Okay, and when this one calf was born, his dad told him, because the kid was only like 8, 9 years old, and the father told the kid, "Okay, now every morning, go out and lift that cow off the ground." Okay, well, every morning this kid went without fail, and once a day he'd go out and lift that cow. Net result, as time went on, the cow obviously got bigger, but the kid managed to hang and be able to do it. However, at one point he stopped. Net result, the cow got too big, he could no longer pick it up. Now, there are not many people that can pick up a full cow anyway, but the same thing applies with your finance, with your weight. Okay, if you're looking at increasing your weight, one step at a time. And before I get sidetracked there, take a look at your bank account. And yes, I've said this multiple times. Look at what the balance was on the 1st of November. Okay, whatever that balance was, whether it was a negative or a positive, doesn't matter. Okay, whatever that balance was, that's where you start. And what you're aiming at is by the 1st of December, being a absolute bare minimum of 1 penny above what your balance at the beginning of November was. Okay, by doing this, you will find that you make a steady, albeit slow, climb above your current balance using your money. Now remember, let's say everything goes tickety boo, and you end up at the beginning of December. Let's say, shock of shocks, you end up with an extra $100 sitting in the bank on the 1st. That's your new bottom, and that's your new bottom level. Do not drop below that in January. Okay, if you follow this pattern, you will. I'm almost certain. And really, if you do the math and do your own math, okay, you'll find if you're constantly pushing the bottom up, you will end up with a much higher level, a much higher bank account. And the catch to it is this: the level. Where are we here? Yes, Philip, like Hercules lifting his horse. Absolutely. Okay. Now I'm doing the same thing with my finances, with the shape of my house, i.e., the clutter and what have you, with my health. All of it is being targeted. But today I'm looking at simply your bank account. Now, there are ways of enhancing, and this is why I'm doing the research myself. Because if I can get a loan and send simply a zero interest loan, then I can make this other issue work. If it's a loan that costs and that charges interest, it doesn't work. Don't do that. Okay. But what you will find, because I don't know about you, but if I can get to the end of the month and go, all my bills are paid and I've still got money, right? Then I'm quite content. Now, I am not in the shape I'm aiming for, and I'm laying odds neither are you. Okay. One of the things that we look at where it comes to bank accounts. Now, I'm 62. If I'd have done what I'm doing now when I was 30, I would be a multi-millionaire at this point because I knew how to do it. I told people how to do it. I taught people how to make money work. Heck, I've taught millionaires how to make money work. Okay. Because money doesn't care how much money you have. It doesn't care at all. It will behave in exactly the same fashion. But if you pay attention to what your money is doing, like for instance, let's say you've got a stable income, everything's going tickety boo, and you're living on it without a problem. Now, you've loaned somebody else money, somebody you trusted, somebody else you loaned money to, and you're already living on what you've got. When they pay you back, take that chunk and bury it. It will help grow your bank account. Okay. As a matter of fact, to put that in perspective, I just literally today I was down at the bank and set an appointment to move some money into a higher interest return. Okay. Again, I'm looking at small numbers. I'm hoping you will take the guidance that I'm talking about and learn from the mistakes I clearly made. Okay. Because if you've got a better income than I have, which is highly probable, okay, then you will be able to turn around and make your bank grow. Okay. Now, I'm telling you right now, okay, talk to somebody who can. Now, I used to be able to do this part and I really can't now. I've forgotten how. But pick a level of living that you would like to have when you get older. I would strongly recommend targeting double minimum what you're making now. Okay, talk to a financial advisor about what kind of money you've got to have in the bank to do that. Financial advisors in the bank are trained to show you how that works. But if you don't ask the question, they won't tell you. One thing that I have come to understand is no matter how much you think about doing something, how much you talk about the importance of it, if you don't get off your tail feathers, it's not going to change. Okay, which is why, effective on the 1st of this month, I started tracking my sleep again and bills and what have you as they come in. So, this funny little thing. Now, I'm a dinosaur. Many of you use an electronic one. I still find this so much easier. Okay, because I can list off sleeping patterns, I can list off bills. Like on this one on the 3rd, I spent some money on a credit card, so I put that down here. Now remember, I'm dealing with a credit card that has a balance. So when I put the money down that I actually spent in a week, I'm going to take that amount plus a little and sink it onto the credit card. In this fashion, I will end up paying off what I owe without paying interest, plus take some more off the balance. Okay, these are all simple little tricks. Okay. Woo Rider, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, things are definitively getting better, Woo. There is no doubt there. You know, I finally got, I've got my health moving in the right direction. Finances are now taking on an active growth curve. And this is why I say absolutely. And the reason I keep repeating this is because when somebody else comes into the room or somebody else listens to this video, then hopefully I've repeated myself often enough that it sinks in. Okay, you look at your bank account, at your bank balance from the 1st of November. That is the number. If at all possible, you make sure there is at least one more penny in that account by the beginning of December than there was at the beginning of November. Okay. The nice part about it is, from your standpoint, okay, what do we got here? The nice part about it is when you are consistent with this method, you will see a constant growth curve. Now, I don't know about you. I don't know if you know how to build a graph. Okay, I do. So I do that myself. That way I'll be able to look at it. As a matter of fact, that's actually a brilliant idea. So we do this. Me and my clipboard works like a charm. Okay. By the way, me and my clipboard is a variation on an old hit called Me and My Shadow. Okay. Don't ask how I came up with that. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to what I say most of the time. Oh. Whoa, happy belated birthday to you. Yeah, I'm in the club now. Now, here's the thing, Lou. At 40 years old, okay, if this is a perfect time, albeit probably a little delayed, but starting today, get on top of your finances. Okay, really take a look at the issue of avoiding the mistake I made. I didn't get on top of them. I knew about it, I told people about it, and I never did anything about it. Okay, and by the way, this applies to everyone, whether you're a pauper, a run-of-the-mill average Joe citizen, or a multi-billionaire, or anywhere in between. Whether you're running your household, which by the way is the most important business you can have, or running what people call a business, all of these techniques work on the same premise. Money doesn't care how you feel. Money doesn't care how much money you've got. It will still pay the same interest rate. If you've got $1 and you're making a 1% return, you're getting 1 penny on the dollar. Okay. If you've got $1 billion, okay, 1%. If you've got $1 billion, you're getting, I believe, 10 million. Okay. I might be off on that. I just don't feel like doing the calculation. Yeah, and thank you very much, Ellie. We are down to 15 minutes. Now, here's the neat thing. We're looking at building your bank account. Hopefully, if you didn't take notes, absolutely re-listen to the stream, make the notes, and start making the adjustments to your behavior. Because the reality is you're the one that's got control over how your money grows. Now, personally, I use GICs because they're the only thing that ever made me money. One of the nice parts about finances is this. Because they don't care how you're feeling, Okay. When you pay attention to them, a higher bank balance will certainly have an impact on the way you're feeling. Because I don't know about you, but if I go through a month and I go, hey, I've got the income to cover these bills, okay, and my bank balance starts climbing. When a bill comes in, I can look at it and go, I required that bonus. We're gonna go with it, okay. But it requires you following your own guidance. Okay, it is absolutely imperative from your standpoint that you pay attention to where your money is, to what balance your bank is, and absolutely double check the finance costs on your bank. Okay, like for instance, there is a bank fee for running your bank. Okay, for running your account. Do not forget to take that into consideration when you're looking at your spending. Okay, because that's going to come out of your balance. So, in my case, I honestly don't know offhand. I think I am paying like $13 a month for them to handle my finances. Okay, there will come a time when I will have enough money in there that I won't have to worry about paying bills, or I won't have to worry about paying bank costs. Most banks have a certain limit or a certain minimum where they stop charging you for your bank services. But here's the kicker. You've got to keep a balance there, but it works. Yes, they're going to make money on your balance. Okay, they're going to make money on your bank balance. Okay, but what matters is not whether they make it; it's whether you make it. Okay, and if you're paying attention to what you're doing, I can virtually guarantee things will climb nicely. Yeah, and Philip, in Canada, a GIC is just that. It is something that guarantees you a small income. Okay, I forget what they said was called in the States. Question, Wu is going, question, Arkeith. If one had certain spending habits for years, how is one to curtail those spending habits back? How long will it take to break those spending habits? That's an easy one. I can give you a quantifiable one there. On average, it takes 21 days to break a habit or form it, regardless of how long you've been there. Okay, now it does require focused effort. There we go. LA is going in the States, it's called a certificate of deposit. It does the same thing. But if you've had really bad spending habits, you're going to have to stand on top of them and go, I'm not doing that anymore. It does require a certain amount of stubborn disposition. Okay, but it is doable. And absolutely, I am doing my best to set things in motion to make sure that people have the encouragement and the support to get things balanced. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why I mentioned that my balance when I hit November 1st was 300 and what was it now? Was 364. Okay, so I am going to make sure that on December 1st, I'm at least one penny over that. Okay, now I won't be able to prove that until December 1st, but that's where I'm starting with. Okay, and the idea is simple. I am planning on leading by example, but no matter what the spending habit you had, where are we here? LA goes, it's like the donuts. You get your spouse to smack your well oh yeah, it's like donuts. get your other half to slap your hand every time you desire to do something. Now remember, okay, sometimes it works really well. I know in one relationship I had, if that person knew how much money I had, and this was a problem of mine, if that person knew how much money we had and asked if we could do something, I go, oh yeah, we can afford it, no problem, I'd spend it, right? If they didn't know how much money I had, and I still had exactly the same amount, they would go, can we get this? I'd look at them and go, no, we can't afford it. Like I said, it was a problem on my end. Okay, what you've got to realize is if you've got really bad habits, if you've got really bad spending habits, like me, I used to go to a restaurant literally 4 or 5 times a week, minimum once a day. Yes, I had food at home. I didn't like cooking. Let's see. Philip goes, I wonder if I can set up something to start lucid dreaming habitually when, within 21 days. Apparently daily meditation and or contemplative prayer is supposed to help. It absolutely does. But again, I will throw a caution to you about lucid dreaming. Absolutely stay focused. Okay. Take the time to go into meditation, to daytime while you are awake. Take the time to focus on making that happen. You can bet your bottom dollar every day from here on out, I'm going to be watching exactly what my finances are doing. Okay, because I'm absolutely adamant I'm going to make things shift gears. Whoop. Oh, there we go. Philip goes, I'm a 1980s baby. Well, here's the good news. You could be an 1880s baby. And these techniques still work. Of course, my suspicion is if you were born in 1880, you're probably dead at this point. But no matter how old you are, these methods work. I know this because I've handed them to people of all ages. Okay. The youngest I did it to was a 10-year-old. I think about a 10-year-old. The oldest was 104. Okay. It boils down, to a very simple issue. You desire your world to change. You desire your bank account to work, to grow. If you haven't got it doing that yet, pay attention to what I've talked about here. If you haven't done this and you don't know whether it'll work, give it a shot. If your bank is already in a tailspin, the worst thing that can happen is it can stay where it is. My suspicion is very strong that when you do what we're talking about and you keep pushing that bottom number up, things will climb. Now, with that in mind, the real catch here is you have to actually believe it is at least possible for you to change gears. Okay, now I know if you're breathing today, you've got a stubborn streak that can be put to use. And think of it this way. You change your spending habits now, and down the road, you'll be able to live a lot more effectively instead of doing it the way I did it. Live high on the hog all through my life, pay no attention, and now in my 60s, struggle to figure out how to survive. It's not working that well in my eyes. And this is why I've taken the writing thing and writing the books and getting them available. Okay. Speaking of which, I gotta go down and talk to somebody tomorrow. Well, talk to my printer tomorrow. Because it's absolutely imperative that we get a handle on things. No more of this issue of blame the government. Okay, or blame interest rates. You've got the tools. I know you've got the tools because I'm sitting here going, these are tools I know work. I've handed them to thousands of people. Okay. And I've just been told we've hit the 5-minute mark. So, with this in mind, absolutely go back over, listen to this video again, and start getting your money to work for you. With this in mind, I do want to say thank you so very much for sharing your time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Very happy with the support I've been getting from all of you. Okay. Tomorrow, what is tomorrow? I know what tomorrow is. That's not the point. Let me just double check here. Tomorrow. Oh, sure. Missing all that. So, I'm not entirely certain. Tomorrow we are dealing with, tomorrow we're dealing with putting your past behind you. Okay. So, until tomorrow, do take care of yourselves. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.